Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we're diving deep into a world of immense power and secrecy. A world that exists just beneath the waves. We're charting the evolution of one of the most complex machines ever created, the submarine. From a fantastical dream to a silent, nuclear-powered sentinel, this is the story of how humanity conquered the undersea domain. The dream of moving beneath the waves isn't new. Legends tell of Alexander the Great descending into the sea in a glass barrel. But the first real, documented design for a submersible came from an English mathematician named William Bourne in 1578. He understood the fundamental principle that still governs submarines today. To sink, you have to get heavier than the water you displace. His idea was a wooden vessel, wrapped in waterproof leather. By using hand vices to literally squeeze the sides and reduce the craft's volume, it would sink. Reversing the process would allow it to surface. Ingenious, but it was never built. The first person to actually build a working submarine was a Dutchman named Cornelius Drebbel around 1620. His invention was basically a modified rowboat sealed in greased leather. Men inside would row, their oars sticking out through waterproof leather seals. He managed to travel 12 to 15 feet under the surface of the River Thames, even demonstrating it for King James I. The most amazing part? Drebbel claimed to have a chemical method for refreshing the air, possibly by heating potassium nitrate to release oxygen, a concept centuries ahead of its time. The next major leap came during the American Revolutionary War. In 1776, a Yale graduate named David Bushnell built the Turtle, a one-man hand-powered submersible shaped like an acorn. The operator cranked propellers by hand and let water into a ballast tank to submerge. Its mission was audacious: sneak up to the British warship HMS Eagle in New York Harbor and attach a time bomb. The pilot, Sergeant Ezra Lee, managed to reach the ship, but he couldn't drill through its copper-sheathed hull to attach the explosive. The mission failed, but the Turtle proved that submarines had incredible potential as offensive weapons. At the turn of the 19th century, American inventor Robert Fulton, famous for his steamboat, designed the Nautilus. Built in 1800, it had a copper hull, a hand-cranked propeller for underwater travel, and a sail for the surface, the first dual propulsion system. It even had diving planes for better control, a forerunner of modern submarine design. But for all their cleverness, these early machines shared a crippling weakness: they relied on human muscle. The true potential of the submarine could only be unlocked by the power of the Industrial Revolution. In the mid-19th century, inventors began experimenting with mechanical power. The French launched the plongeur in 1863, which used a compressed air engine. It was an advance, but unstable and with a very limited range. A more revolutionary idea came from Spanish inventor Narcís Monturiol with his Ictineo II. He developed a chemical reaction that produced heat for a steam engine and, crucially, oxygen. This meant his submarine could run its engine while completely submerged, an early form of what we now call air-independent propulsion. But the real game-changer was electricity. By the 1880s, reliable electric motors and storage batteries provided a safe and efficient way to travel underwater. The man who put all the pieces together was an Irish-American inventor named John Philip Holland. His 1897 submarine, the Holland VI, became the blueprint for the modern submarine. It used a gasoline engine on the surface, which also charged its batteries, and a quiet electric motor for moving underwater. The U.S. Navy purchased it in 1900, commissioning it as the USS Holland, their very first submarine. Two other pieces of technology were vital. First, the periscope. Early subs were blind underwater. The periscope, a tube with prisms, allowed a submerged sub to peek above the waves. Second, the self-propelled torpedo. Invented in 1866, the Whitehead torpedo gave submarines a weapon they could fire from a safe distance. By the start of the 20th century, The submarine was no longer a curiosity. It had a diesel-electric propulsion system, a periscope, and torpedoes. It was a deadly reality, poised to change naval warfare forever. When World War I began in 1914, many navies were still skeptical of submarines, but Germany's advanced U-boats would quickly prove their devastating effectiveness. Initially, U-boat commanders followed prize rules, surfacing to warn merchant ships before sinking them. But as the British naval blockade tightened, Germany retaliated with unrestricted submarine warfare, attacking any Allied ship without warning. The most infamous event was the sinking of the passenger liner RMS Lusitania in 1915, which killed nearly 200 people and helped push the United States toward war. In response, the Allies desperately developed anti-submarine warfare, or ASW. They invented the depth charge, a 300-pound bomb that exploded at a preset depth. They used hydrophones, underwater microphones, to listen for the sound of a sub's motors. They even deployed Q-ships, armed vessels disguised as harmless merchant ships. But the most effective tactic was the convoy system, grouping merchant ships together with naval escorts, making it much harder for a lone U-boat to attack. By the war's end, the submarine had proven itself a decisive weapon. The lessons learned in the Atlantic would directly shape the even deadlier undersea conflict to come. In World War II, the submarine took center stage again. The Battle of the Atlantic was the longest campaign of the war, pitting German U-boats against Allied convoys. Admiral Karl Donitz perfected the Wolfpack tactic, where multiple U-boats would swarm a convoy to overwhelm its defenses. German technology had also advanced. The late-war Type 21 Electroboot was a revelation. With a streamlined hull for high underwater speed and huge batteries, it was the first submarine designed to operate primarily while submerged. Another key German innovation was the snorkel, a tube that allowed a U-boat to run its diesel engines and recharge its batteries while just under the surface, making it far less vulnerable. The Allies fought back with better technology. Airborne radar could spot surfaced U-boats from miles away. Sonar, which sends out an active ping and listens for the echo, could find them underwater. And critically, Allied codebreakers cracked Germany's Enigma codes, allowing convoys to be routed around known U-boat positions. In the Pacific, the U.S. submarine fleet waged a devastatingly effective campaign against Japan. Using long-range submarines like the Gado and Balao classes, they systematically destroyed Japan's merchant fleet, crippling its war economy. Japan also had remarkable submarine designs, most notably the I-400 class. These were the largest submarines of the war, designed as underwater aircraft carriers, each carrying 3 bomber aircraft. The plan was to launch surprise attacks on the Panama Canal, but they were built too late to have an impact. The Second World War cemented the submarine as a strategic weapon, but the next great leap would be the biggest of all, the dawn of the nuclear age. The Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union fueled an intense technological arms race, and the submarine was at its heart. The visionary behind the nuclear submarine was an American admiral named Hyman G. Rickover. He realized that a nuclear reactor, which needs no air to operate, was the perfect power source for a submarine. It would grant virtually unlimited underwater endurance. In 1954, the world's first nuclear-powered submarine, the USS Nautilus, was launched. It shattered every record. It could travel for months without surfacing, and in 1958, it did the impossible. It sailed under the North Pole completely submerged. This was combined with another innovation, the teardrop hull. First tested on the experimental sub-USS Albacore, this rounded shape was hydrodynamically perfect for underwater speed. A teardrop hull plus a nuclear reactor created a true submarine, faster and more agile underwater than anything that had come before. Then, the submarine became a linchpin of nuclear deterrence. With the invention of the Submarine-Launched Ballistic Missile, or SLBM, A submarine could hide in the ocean's depths and launch nuclear weapons. These boomer subs, or SSBNs, provided a guaranteed second strike capability, ensuring that even if a country suffered a surprise attack, it could still retaliate. The Soviet Union raced to catch up, building a huge fleet of nuclear submarines. While often noisier than their American counterparts, they had innovative features like titanium hulls and were built in massive numbers. The largest submarine ever built, the Soviet Typhoon class, could carry 20 long-range ballistic missiles. The Cold War became a silent, high-stakes game of cat and mouse, with both sides pouring billions into making their submarines quieter and their listening devices more sensitive, all to control the undersea battlefield. With the end of the Cold War, the submarine's role shifted. Strategic deterrence remains vital, but modern submarines are now multi-mission platforms. They conduct intelligence gathering, support special operations, and launch cruise missiles at land targets. For non-nuclear submarines, air-independent propulsion, or AIP, has been a game-changer. Using things like fuel cells or Stirling engines, these conventional subs can stay submerged for weeks, dramatically improving their stealth and closing the capability gap with nuclear subs. Today's submarines, like the American Virginia class or the Russian Yasin class, are among the most advanced machines on Earth. They feature sophisticated sonar arrays, automated combat systems, and photonics masts instead of traditional periscopes. Looking ahead, the evolution continues. Unmanned underwater vehicles, or UUVs, will be launched from submarines to act as robotic scouts and weapons platforms. Artificial intelligence will help crews manage the immense flow of data. From Cornelius Drebbel's leather-clad rowboat to the city-sized nuclear giants patrolling today's oceans, the submarine's journey is a 400-year testament to human ingenuity. It is a story of a silent service that has operated in the shadows, shaping history from the depths. Thanks for listening to G Fun Facts Online.